And of course, if they lose these next two games, then they have flexibility to do kind of whatever they want. If there's a quarterback they like, they could potentially trade up or just wait.
After Sunday's loss, the Vikings' chances of retaining the NFC North crown went out the window. Congratulations, Detroit Lions, for winning that for the first time in 30 years. We no longer can hoist the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stat over them any longer. But with that loss, all of a sudden, Vikings fans really seem to have shifted their attention towards the draft. So going into Sunday's action, had the draft started that day, according to Tankathon, they would have had the 22nd overall pick. After the loss, they've now jumped up to 15th, but there is still a chance that a top 10 pick is likely. What do you think, as of this moment, with 2 games left to go in the season, where do you think they will draft at this point, or at this point coming up in April?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think that from Vikings fans' perspective, they're looking at this team saying they can't really go anywhere. And I'm sure everyone will be watching on Sunday Night Football when they play the Packers. That's always a big game for Vikings fans. But even if you've given up on the idea that you could potentially be dangerous in the playoffs, these last two games really matter for the future of the team. If they make the playoffs, then they are going to draft in the 20s. And if they don't, they have a chance to get up into that top 10 type of range. And if you're in that ballpark, you aren't that far away from making a big trade. Think about last year. Where did Carolina finish the season? I think it was ninth, and they ended up trading up all the way to number one to draft Bryce Young. And that's where you might only have to give up one future first round pick in order to go draft a quarterback if that's something that they want to do. But if you're drafting in the 20s, then you're talking multiple first round picks, or you're just waiting and hoping that somebody drops. Now, that strategy can work from time to time. Lamar Jackson looked pretty good the other night against San Francisco, and he was not a top draft pick. So it can work, but it just makes life a lot more difficult, and you have to give up more draft capital, or you have to hope that the quarterback that you like just happens to fall, if that is something that they want to do. So the next two games, if they win them, they get into the playoffs, it will be without question a great story and great coaching job in order to do it, considering all the injuries and all the different quarterbacks and everything else that they've had to go through this year. But it also might be one of those that we look back and go, but, the long-term implications. And of course, if they lose these next two games, then they have flexibility to do kind of whatever they want. If there's a quarterback they like, they could potentially trade up or just wait until the whatever it is, 10th, 12th, 14th pick. Usually there are still some quarterbacks available. So it does have major implications toward the future of this franchise, what happens against Green Bay and Detroit.
That's been another Purple Insider Extra for Bring Me the Sports. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Purple Insider Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you next time.